I think I don't know if we told everyone here on the call. We're going to record this. It goes on our YouTube page. We put it on our Facebook page, and we actually get a lot of people that aren't on this call watching our videos. So it's kind of nice for recruiting, because that's one of my hats. But also it's really nice for our nonprofits to get their word out as well. So Sarah Grace is going to do a quick intro. Then Renee is going to kind of facilitate a tour there with Mike and Lydia. We'll have time for you guys to answer questions. We're a smaller group, so feel free to unmute yourself and shout them out if you want, or there's a chat box, chat function. You can just enter your chat there. And then we'll try and get those questions over to the team at St. Vincent de Paul. And then I'll just do a quick summary and we'll be done. So Sarah Grace.
Okay, fantastic. So welcome everybody. I think everybody on the call is a member, but for all of those either on Facebook that aren't or who are watching our YouTube, I'm still going to do our spiel because it's important for recruiting. So I'm Sarah Grace, president of Impact 100, and our mission is to empower women to dramatically improve lives by collectively funding significant grants that make a lasting impact in our community. And the way that works is that women join at either a $500 or $1,000 level, and then we pool these monies together into grants of at least $100,000. And then our local nonprofit community is asked to submit a grant application in one of our 5 focus areas, which are family, health and wellness, education, culture, environment, recreation, and preservation. So almost any nonprofit in the region could fit into one of those 5 categories, and it was kind of created that way for a reason. Our members then come together to review the grant applications. They perform financial analysis and do site visits, and ultimately select our grant finalists. And then in September, at our annual award celebration, the finalists present their transformational project, and our members vote right there live for the grant recipients. And they're awarded that evening. And then we do fairly long-term partnerships with our nonprofit or our grant recipients between 1 and 3 years while they get their project off the ground. Since our inception in 2001, we've awarded over $5 million to local nonprofits for a total of 47 transformational projects. And those are all at least $100,000 grants. And I always like to close with what I think makes Impact 100 special. First thing for me is that 100% of the membership dollars go to the grant pool. So every member dollar goes directly back out into the community. Our members can be as involved or uninvolved as they choose to be. It's a build your own adventure situation. So you can write your check and feel really confident that the other members are going to be great stewards of your money, or you could be president. It's a giant, there's lots of ways you could participate. And then lastly, the entire organization is run by a volunteer board. So we have no paid staff. We have a fantastic outsourced administrative assistant who helps us with some of the day-to-day, and we couldn't do anything without her. But other than that, it's 24 women making this happen every day, which is really incredibly impressive. And before I turn it over to our nonprofit recipient or grant recipients today, I just want to thank our sponsors. So with 100% of our member dollars going to the grant pool, that means we have 0 operating dollars at the beginning of every year, and we just couldn't do this work without them. So we just want to take a moment and say thank you. And with that, I'm gonna turn this Zoom call over to Lydia and Mike and Renee from the St. Vincent de Paul Charitable Pharmacy. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you so much, Sarah Grace. My name is Renee Burlon. I'm the Stewardship and Events Manager here at St. Vincent de Paul. But today, my more official title is just iPad holder, as Mike and Lydia from our Charitable Pharmacy will actually be giving you the update. So we thought it would be best to just be on site and show you what's been happening here at the Charitable Pharmacy and what the Impact Grant has helped us make possible since receiving that this past fall. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'm going to switch my camera around so you can go ahead and see Lydia, and we'll get started here with our tour.
Hi guys, my name is Lydia Bailey. I'm the clinical pharmacy manager here, and I had the privilege of speaking to you all at the exciting Impact 100 event. So I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys, what Renee said, what we've been up to because of your funding. So if you remember in the pitch, we kind of pitched two things. We wanted the dollars to be used to increase the space of the pharmacy from 1,100 square feet to 2,800 square feet. And then we also needed extra funding for staffing so we could be open longer. So both of those things have been successfully implemented. This little plaque here has our hours of operation now. So we're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and Saturdays 8 to noon, which is a lot easier for our neighbors. They don't have to memorize our weird every other day schedule. So that part was very successful. And then in a minute, we'll show you the inside of the pharmacy where the expansion of all the space happened. So over here, we have our pickup window, and Mike's going to share a little bit about that.
First of all, thank you very much for being on the call. We, of course, think you're wonderful as far as giving us the money to have this dispensary. So I am Mike Espel. I am the director and founder of the Charitable Pharmacy. I have 46 years of experience in underserved care. Since opening in 2006, we have filled a total of 530,000 prescriptions worth $70 million. In 2019, we filled 66,225 prescriptions worth $9.7 million. So the point there is that we continue to grow every year. And our expansion, we have a lot of we are going to expand the pharmacy in the future, especially once we get beyond the COVID. We are an outcomes-based program. So what does that mean? That means that our patients that come in here, they're the underserved people. They get positive health outcomes from being in here due to the positive proven metrics that we have. Overall, this is the pickup window, meaning that I know all of you have probably been in a pharmacy and gone to the pickup window and been counseled or been offered counseling. Most people say, no, I don't want counseling. But the difference here is that we do counseling on everyone because, again, we feel that underserved people need that education and we want them to get those positive health outcomes. So a total of about 500 patients are seen at this window every month, normally when we're in normal operation. Obviously, we have changed the way that we're doing business right now with COVID. So anyway, I think at this point, Lydia's gonna take you around and show you our storage, and then I'll be back with you to show you the dispensary.
Yeah, but first I want to show off the Impact 100 plaque here. So just a thank you to you guys for all of the funding. Super appreciative. So everyone can see the name on the pharmacy. So now we'll head back through these doors here. And if you remember, when we had said our pitch, one of the big things that was an issue was our donation space. And so I had said that we had to turn down donations of medication because we didn't have places to store it. So I'm going to show you our storage area to where we don't have to turn down any donations anymore. So this space is just purely for medication storage. So we get every single donated item gets processed through this room. We thought it would be so big we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves, and clearly we've already, to the ceiling, filled the room because we've been really blessed to still get lots of donations. But the big thing, the big takeaway here is that we haven't had to turn away any donations. And actually, before we had this space, we were using about 82% of all of our medications were filled with donated sources. Since we've come into this building, it's 90%. So 90% of all of our medications are donated, which is really the linchpin of us being able to provide all these medications for free. And so it's critical that we're in this space. That equates to over $7 million worth of medication value since we've moved in here. So the efficiency of being able to process these meds is I can't overstate it enough. But that's what this room is here. And then we'll walk through to the dispensary.
Hello, this is Mike again. So this is the Impact 100 dispensary. I think what's most important is that It is more spacious and more efficient than the pharmacy that we had across the street. So how is it? So overall, we have 3 dispensing stations in here, or verification stations, that a pharmacist can verify prescriptions. The first one is in the back corner. The second one is in the middle of our counter space here. And the third one is at the front where the pickup and drop-off windows are. So how does that differ? Over across the street, we only had 1 verification station. So it just enables us to verify a lot more prescriptions and to be a lot more efficient. You'll also notice that the counter space, we've got a huge counter space. It wraps around the whole pharmacy. So, and in fact, we have another, that little corner space too. So huge counter space. And then if you look at our shelving, we have the shelving over here is a lot more efficient. It's a lot easier to access. So overall, the pharmacy is just a lot more usable for us to do our business in. As far as the cost of our prescriptions, so you probably are wondering, how much does it cost us to fill a prescription? So the total is $12.55. How much does it cost Medicaid to fill a prescription? It's over $70. So Medicaid is a lot more expensive than us, even though they get their medicine at a much cheaper cost. Obviously, the reason why we can do that is because we get a lot of donated medicine. So as Lydia will tell you in a few minutes, 90% of our prescriptions are filled with donated medicine, and that's how we can get to that $12.55. Finally, the leveraging. So again, because of the 90% from donated sources, we can leverage every dollar that anyone donates to us into $13 worth of pharmaceutical care. So, you know, the leveraging is exciting, because if somebody gives $50, it's $50 times 13 that they're actually giving us in the end. So that's a big selling point that we utilize, you know, to try to get funding for the pharmacy.
So I'm going to pop back, and I know everyone's wondering how we've responded with COVID. So I kind of want to show you a little bit, like everyone else, COVID's caused a lot of changes in our program, but we were determined and fortunate enough to make sure that we stayed open. And so to be able to do that and stay open for our neighbors, we had to put precautions in place for our employees and for the neighbors that we're serving. So instead of patients coming up to these pickup windows to drop off their prescriptions, pick up their prescriptions, we actually have no patients in our building at all right now. And so there's a side door that is a glass door, and we have an intern there. And so the patient comes up, and it's almost like an intercom system. They call in, and the intern answers, puts their prescription order in, and then the intern themselves walks up here and has to pick up the meds. So the intern comes to the window. The pharmacy team member gets the prescriptions that are filled. We go ahead and verify it based on their profile. And then the intern walks out, and there's a box there where the intern walks out, puts the prescriptions on the box, and then waves the patient forward, and the patient can come to the box. So there's no contact in that at all. So it would be impossible in our old building to do something like this. Just being in this space, I think, is one of the only ways we're able to keep up with this kind of crazy new system that we have to do, but also the crazy increase of volume we've had. So since March, since COVID, we had about a 20% increase in prescription volume for March and April, which is unheard of. We normally can only sustain 10% growth at a time. So for us to have a 20% increased demand of prescriptions was tough, but we were able to kind of combat that. But then also, ever since COVID, we've had 3 times the amount of new patients coming to us. And that's because when you lose your job, you lose your insurance. And so tons of patients are coming to us who have never been here before, didn't even know we existed, but found that they lost that security that they had. And so it's been wonderful that we've been able to still be a resource here. And I don't think that'd be possible if we were still in our old building. I really don't think we'd be able to keep up with this demand right now. So hugely blessed to be able to do that.
Lydia, we do have a question, it looks like here, asking, and you might already be planning to cover this, but Could you share a story about increased outcomes due to the mandatory counseling that we have, or what that looks like now with our counseling and how it's shifted?
Yeah, so I was going to speak about this, but basically all of our counseling has shifted to telephonic interactions. So we do a comprehensive medication review every 6 months on every single patient, no matter what. If you remember, we talked about our patient interview rooms, and so those interviews would happen in person. We've shifted that to being over the phone. We've done about 500 since COVID of telephonic telephone interventions that way. So that's an hour-long phone call where we go through every med, every disease state. We go over your vitals, things like that. So we're still very much dedicated to our clinical care. And then same thing as patients pick up their medications. The interns, they're in their last year pharmacy school, and so they're almost pharmacists, so they do the counseling on each medication as the patient picks it up. So they still get that continual education where we're not going to wane from that. We really are dedicated to that here. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And one more question, Lydia, that we've had come through. Are we distributing any masks to neighbors as they're coming in?
No, we have our masks. The neighbors aren't coming in, so they're not coming into the building at all. So the masks that we have on site are for employees. We actually had to cut all volunteer activity as well. So we've actually lost about 1,000 hours of volunteer time in the pharmacy, which another huge burden for our program that we've really risen to that challenge with our staff here. But the masks we have for our interns, our employees, and then because patients aren't in the building, we haven't had to provide patients with masks.
And we have one more question. And we, of course, can welcome more questions, but and if you're planning to cover this a little bit later, that's okay, but it just makes sure we can touch on who is actually donating this medication and how that works, and maybe why they're choosing to donate certain medications and what we accept. So
yeah, legally we can only accept donations from, like, we can't accept donations from any patients. It's got to be from a wholesale manufacturer, from a doctor's office. It can never be in the hands of a patient. So these donations are not coming from, Joe Schmo down the street. That's illegal. So our biggest source of donations is actually Key Source Medical. They are a wholesaler, and so they allow us to get medications from their catalog every month. Great partnership for us. So we're really appreciative for that partnership. But then we have some international groups, Direct Relief, AmeriCares. These are some other organizations that will donate to us. And then we have some patient assistance programs through drug companies like Merck, Pfizer, that we're able to get medications from. And then we still have a repository program where we get medications from nursing homes that are unused, but they're still sealed, and so they were never tampered with. And so we can pick up medications from that as well. So.
All right, I got another one. You guys are wonderful, and thank you so much for being so interactive. So Molly's wondering, because of COVID, it sounds like we've had 3 times the amount of patient demand, but only a 20% increase in demand. Did she get that right? It seems like the demand increase is more than that.
3 times the number of new patients, 20% increase in prescription volume. So every patient doesn't have the same number of prescriptions. One new patient might have 1 med, another one might have 30 meds. So they're not going to directly relate, but we've had 3 times the amount of patients and 20% the amount of prescriptions.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to show more of the clinical side of the program. So if you'll walk back here. We're going to go into the patient intake rooms where we were doing our interviews in person. So we'll go through this space and turn this light on. Sorry. So this is the room. If you remember, Sandra, the woman who spoke with me at Impact 100, one of our patients, she had said when she first came to the pharmacy, it was a 6x6 closet, and it really was. And so when we moved into this new space, we were able to really outfit a much more normal patient intake room, multiple chairs, computers, phones, things like that. So we have 6 of these patient intake rooms for when we were doing our comprehensive medication reviews with each patient. Now, like I said before, all of those have gone telephonic, so we're still doing every single appointment, but it's just over the phone now. But just back on Sandra, I just wanted to give you guys an update. She's doing great. So I recently called her to just check in, and she wanted to say thank you. I told her we were doing this, and she wanted to say thank you to Impact 100 again. if you remember, she has pretty severe lung disease. And so during COVID, she's the one person that is at the highest risk for having severe complications. And so she also said she was really appreciative of our curbside model because she doesn't come in contact with anyone. And so for her especially, that's a big fear right now. And so it's great that we can still provide her her life-saving medications without putting her at risk in any way. So she's doing great. She also, one of her big quotes that she always said to us was, we're all just one event away from financial devastation. And I think that during COVID, we've seen that because people who have been secure their whole lives, this is that one event, and now they don't have prescription insurance. They don't have coverage. They don't have a job, you know? So I think that that's surprisingly, those triple the amount of new patients we've had, that's their story. Their story is that exactly. One patient I just saw yesterday, she had been at the same job 25 years. She has never not worked. And so 25 years of working, and this is the first time she's not had a job. So she came to us. It's just those kinds of things are happening every single day. So really awesome that we're still able to do all that. The other really interesting thing that we've been able to do because of COVID, actually, this term, she's not here now, but we just hired a nurse practitioner. And so she's here for 6 months. It's kind of a pilot study, but we basically, we're trying to alleviate the need. When people lose their job, they don't just lose, they don't just lose their medical or their prescription coverage. They lose their medical coverage as well. And so they can't see their doctor. And so we started noticing right at the beginning of COVID, patients would come and they wouldn't have prescriptions for us to fill. You know, they'd qualify for our program, but we needed prescriptions. So I'd still have to send them to the emergency room just to get a written prescription. And that's not solving any problems. You know, that's still a healthcare burden. And so we realized we really are at the point where we needed free primary care as well. So we had this pilot program with this nurse practitioner. It's going to last from May until October. And she's seeing almost 20% of our patients now. She just started in May. But basically, it's this huge need that we found where 20% of our patients don't have good primary care. And so whether they lost their insurance or all the primary care offices are super backed up now. So they would call and say, I need to talk to my doctor. And the doctor says, I can't get you in for 6 months. So it's been incredible to have her right here on site. She's here every day. And we could just say, you know, oh, you don't have a provider or you haven't seen your provider in a while. Let's get Lindsay on the phone with you. And so she's doing all telehealth appointments as well. But she can, you know, get the patient added on, write their prescriptions, and then we can fill them. So another thing, you know, a great new service that provides that holistic care. And that was something just because of the need that we were able to shift to. We're hoping to be able to fund this position after we get some more data with it, but we're still in the hunt.
Lydia, thank you so much for sharing that. We had another question come through. Well, thank you also for the update on Sandra. It's great to hear that she's doing well, especially during this pandemic. But we had a question about how does one qualify for the program in general?
Yeah, so we serve 4 counties, so Hamilton, Warren, Butler, and Claremont. So you have to live in one of those 4 counties and prove that you live there. And then you have to have a photo ID, and then you have proof of income. So we have to be able to show monthly income. And if that income is less than 250% of the federal poverty level, that's all we need. But even if it's more than that, we can still certify you if your expenses that are approved expenses outweigh your monthly income, which is a great caveat. We have a few patients who have 2 jobs. You know, they make pretty solid income, but they also have cancer. And so they have huge medical bills. And so they still can't afford their medications. We're able to prove that they still have a need and certify them for our program. Most places don't do that. It's just like a firm, this is what you make, you qualify or you don't. We're a lot more understanding of different circumstances. So I love that about the program. But that's it. That's we certify. Yeah.
Great. Are there any other questions that Lydia can answer? I know you guys have been great about following along, and hopefully you're not too dizzy as we've navigated through the Charitable Pharmacy, but is there anything else that we can answer for you for the time being?
Yeah, and I have Mike giving you a hand signal here.
Oh,
so
right.
let me
Randy had just asked if
yeah, okay, yeah.
nurse practitioner has gone to telehealth.
Is the nurse practitioner doing telehealth?
Yes, she's doing all telehealth appointments as well. These are great questions, you guys. Thanks for asking such good questions.
Okay, so we just want to thank you, thank your organization for choosing us for the grant, and we are very grateful. So at this point, I think you've asked most of your questions, but I was going to ask a question or see if there were any questions.
Sure. So we do have another question of how the nurse practitioner is funded right now.
So the nurse practitioner was part of the Deaconess mobile van, first of all, and then was part of our primary care presence that was upstairs in the building. They suspended operations when COVID in the middle of March. So the Deaconess Foundation actually funded having the nurse practitioner in here until the end of April. But then starting then, we got a grant from the Greater Cincinnati Foundation to fund the nurse practitioner until October. But we have found that this synergy with having the nurse practitioner with the pharmacy program has been a wonderful synergy and has been very useful to the pharmacy. So we're hoping to figure out a way to keep the nurse practitioner on site with us.
Yeah. We had another question too. So Mike or Lydia, maybe you can speak to this, but folks are asking if there are transportation barriers to patients who are seeking our care.
Yeah, because we serve such a wide county range, you know, there's patients who live 50 minutes, an hour away from the pharmacy. And so there are a lot of transportation barriers with that. That's why we opened up our Western Hills Pharmacy actually in 2016, was to alleviate some of those transportation barriers on the west side. But it's something that we continually look forward to. We know the east side needs a presence. So we're always looking around in the Milford area. Something interesting that some of our patients do is they hire a City Dash. It's like a courier service. And so thankfully, since we don't do controlled substances, anyone can pick up medications for patients. So their neighbor can pick it up, their relative, a random mailman can pick it up for them. And so a City Dash courier will come in, or like an Uber driver will come in and pick up the medications and deliver them to the patient. The patient has to pay for that themselves, but it's surprisingly, you know, way more affordable than paying for their medication. So patients have to get creative, but they are able to work around some of those barriers.
Mike, you had said that there's mandatory counseling on the prescriptions. Have you seen, you know, if someone come in and you found that, like, I don't know, they were taking medications that were canceling each other out, or is there any, like, I'm just trying to understand what's the reasoning behind that, and what have you seen? Is there a good example of some of the changes you've seen because you guys do that?
Well, so people, generally patients that are underserved, have prescriptions from various different places. So they don't necessarily have a primary care that they're going to on a consistent basis. So we found that the more education that we do with patients, we are able to get better adherence. And adherence is the most important thing. So you're taking blood pressure medicine, you're taking medicines for diabetes, you're not going to achieve outcomes, and you're not going to reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke if you don't take your medicines properly. So we want to assure that people take their medicines properly, and that's why we do that.
And on top of that, there's tons of examples. I mean, every day I have someone where, like Mike said, they got meds from 2 different doctors, and those doctors didn't know that the other was prescribing a medicine in the exact same class. So they're absolutely taking duplicate therapy, huge risk for side effects. So the duplication of therapy happens quite frequently. And then also side effects. Patients will just stop taking their meds because they had a side effect that they didn't realize could have been alleviated by taking it with food or something like that. So we assess for side effects for each of these medications to be able to empower the patient to know, oh, I can take this and alleviate this on my own. I don't need to just not take this medicine anymore and experience those negative outcomes. So yeah, we catch a lot of errors pretty frequently. You know, doctors are stressed and tight for time as well. So they have maybe 10 minutes to spend with a patient, where we spend an hour with a patient. And so we do get a lot more information that is helpful for their care.
I have another random question. I have this like DEI lens on because we just had a conversation last night about our diversity efforts. Do you guys find that there are certain populations in Cincinnati that you wish that you could serve that just aren't coming to not using your services for any reason?
I really think that we hit on the people that need the help. The Spanish speakers, we had issues with that many years ago, but being able to help them. But now we have translation services, and we are able to help the Spanish speakers as well as we help everybody else. And that population in particular has issues with adherence and taking their medicine correctly. And I think a lot of it is, quote, lost in translation. So the good thing is our lead advocate, speaks fluent Spanish. We also have a technician that speaks fluent Spanish. So we are doing very well with that.
Wonderful. And I got one more. It's one I always like to end with here. But if anyone else wants to speak up, please do. If anyone on the call was, compelled to support you guys even further, what would you guys ask for today?
We would ask for whatever they would like to donate to us. I think the main thing is to remember that whatever is donated, it leverages 13 times. And that's the amount of care that we're able to provide with every dollar that we receive.
Awesome. So cash donations are very much welcomed.
Absolutely. If I didn't make that clear, yes.
And this is Renee stepping in, not just as the iPad holder, but also as part of our fundraising team. But we unfortunately had to cancel our annual golf event that usually benefits the Charitable Pharmacy. It's the one and only fundraiser that we do have for the pharmacy every year. And so that was canceled for the end of this month, of course, due to the pandemic. But in place, we will be having a Maximizing Medicine, Multiplying Hope online giving event on the 23rd and 24th. So we just encourage folks to keep an eye out for that. Our goal is to raise $100,000 to fill 8,500 prescriptions. So that's a more immediate need that we're pushing as well if folks want to, if folks are interested in supporting the Charitable Pharmacy until we have the capacity to welcome volunteers back.
Renee, if you want to email me or Barb that information, if you guys have a link, we'll be happy to share that.
Send that out.
Thank you. We're always so careful to not keep peddling our cause here with you all. So we are grateful for your willingness to spread the word.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys have taken your time, you've taken the time for us. We're happy to reciprocate the favor. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to keep going on the chat. I'm going to do a quick wrap up here for those on Facebook Live. If you want to become a member of Impact 100, it's fairly simple. You can go to our website and sign up. But there are two different levels of membership. You can be a full member at 1,000 or half member at 500. And in both of those membership levels, you can add to your membership to help with some of our everyday costs. But a full membership gets you one full vote, and a half membership would get you obviously a half vote. And you can pay many, many different ways. Check, credit cards. Some of employers will actually match your membership dollars, which is awesome. And some pay one time, send in a check or credit card, be done. Some people like to pay monthly, however you like to do that. But however you become a member, you need to do it by December 31st. We collect all of our dollars by the end of the year, so then we can announce how many grants we'll be giving out in 2021. For all of you there on the call that are members, it's never too early to go ahead and rejoin. And finally, if you're looking for more ways to engage in what's going on with Impact 100, we have quite a few events going on. We've got the Step Up series that's been very popular. We have these live events every Thursday, and we're hoping to add some more possibly. If St. Vincent de Paul wants to sign up for another, they're more than welcome. And then finally, the two that are kind of highlighted here, green In green, we have our Meet the Finalists, which will also be a Zoom call, whatever that is, 8 days from now. So you'll get to see who we'll be voting on this year to win our $100,000 grants. And then finally in purple, there's just so many DEI, calling equity champion events. I can't list them all, but there's essentially 3 different tracks. If you want to learn more about diversity, equity, inclusion in nonprofits and just kind of in general, you can sign up for like 3 different tracks: read, watch, chat, different ways to get involved. Of course, it's all on our website. You can reach out to Sarah Grace, Barb, or myself if you have any questions on that front. But if we don't have any other questions for Renee, Mike, or Lydia, I just want to thank them again for taking the time out of the day. I know you guys are open and working right now, so it's very appreciated for you guys to do this for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone's clapping.
All right.
All right.
Well, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Another one, and I hope you guys have a good week. We'll see you at Meet the Finalists, hopefully.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.